We are now on day 6 of a bitter new outburst of war in the Middle East, a direct confrontation between Israel and Iran, emerging from a shadow war that's been going on for decades. Hundreds have been killed, with exchanges of missiles and evacuations from homes in both countries. The world has long worried about Iran's nuclear ambitions, and Israel has seized its moment to end them. But with Iran now feeling more insecure and under threat than ever before, could it actually have the reverse effect? Could this backfire? I'm Lucy Watson.
And I'm Rageh Omaar. I'm Lucy's colleague and friend. We both have a shared interest in Iran, and I'm the international affairs analyst for ITV News.
And together, we are going to try and tell you what you need to know about what this dangerous moment means for the world. So, Rageh, I suppose let's start Friday.
Yeah.
I know exactly what happened to me when I woke up. My phone was on next to my bed and I saw the alert come up. What was your immediate thought?
Well, same thing. My phone was next to my bed. I don't think any of us would have thought that Israel would go through with this. Mm-hmm. They've talked about it for a long time with successive governments under Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel. But for Israel to do this on its own just seemed like a huge, huge step. And then I suppose hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Because you sort of think, well, after Israel had basically destroyed all of the regional proxies that Iran had in Hezbollah, in Hamas, and also Islamic Jihad, why wouldn't it do it?
The timing of it is quite peculiar maybe, but not, as you've just explained, in one sense. The reason why I say peculiar is because further talks between the US and Iran were expected on Sunday in Oman. Iran, as far as I can work out, seemed quite engaged with these talks. Mm-hmm. And from people I've spoken to out in Iran since Friday, Iranians that I'm friendly with in this country, it seems like it was a complete shock to the Ayatollahs that this came about.
It's a huge shock to everyone. And I suspect also in Washington, as you just alluded to, because there were negotiations, President Trump's envoy to Iran, Witkoff, had been meeting in Oman, had been meeting in Vienna. So it all seemed to be going fairly well in terms of let's come to an agreement. And Iran had indicated that it was open to some suggestions. And then this came along. But I think we also have to understand that there are domestic political reasons why this government in Israel decided to go through with this.
You've already talked about kind of the weakening of its proxies in the region, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis as well in Yemen.
Yeah.
But there are other things that we've got to consider as well. It's relatively weak, the Iranian regime, to a point. There's dissent in the country. There's not a lot. The economy is not doing well because of sanctions. There are other reasons why
Israel would not have been able to do this without extraordinarily long and deep planning. And I think one of the most underreported aspects of this conflict has been the intelligence penetration by
I totally agree. Nobody's really talking about it. No. Go on, tell us about it.
So Israel managed to plant a whole host of micro drones that were armed. They've killed 20 of the most senior military and intelligence personnel. That doesn't happen overnight. Netanyahu doesn't wake up and say, listen, I think we need to do this and we need to take out all of Iran's air defense systems, radar systems, power grids. The political decision was taken, I think, at least a year earlier to say this, Israel would think we will never have a better moment to actually strike Iranian nuclear targets, because the ability for Iran to launch attacks at us is diminished because they don't have Hezbollah anymore, they don't have Hamas, etc., etc.
Right, let's just stay with the US. I mean, we've gone we've gone straight at the beginning, Friday when it all kicked off. Now we are day 6, and reaction in terms of the US. He left the G7 summit in Canada early, prematurely left, got back to DC and met with security officials last night, I think, in the Situation Room. War diplomacy, however, has been playing out in his favourite channel on Truth Social, and he said last night, you know, we know where the supreme leader is. We're not going to kill him yet. He's an easy target. I mean, it's staggering that this is the mode in which he chooses to deal with this enormously important, pivotal moment in this region.
I think Donald Trump has been caught a little bit...
on the hop?
On the hop. So, and he would like to get in front of the story, because he never likes to be behind the story. He's
presumably been discussing in the Situation Room the options, which can pretty much extend from doing absolutely nothing to, as we've already discussed, taking out the supreme leader and bombing the other 2 nuclear facilities that have yet to be affected so far. What are his options? I mean, I know I've kind of touched on a few there, but I mean, can he avoid totally getting involved in this, do you think?
That's a very good question. There's 2 things, okay? One is regime change. If you're going to kill the entire leadership of Iran, or totally destroying Iran's nuclear program. I don't think either of those can be done by Israel alone.
Right.
So from a strategic point of view, I think Israel does need, in order to effect either of those 2, regime change or destroying the nuclear program, American military facilitation, if I could put it like that. There's certain things that Israel does not have that it needs in order to do this. Both to effect regime change, but also to affect the destruction of Iran's nuclear program. It can delay it, but it can't destroy it. So the other calculation is then, well, what's the political price that Trump would want to do in order to affect this? I think the American administration would like to use this as a leverage point, saying, listen, we can, we can either help Israel do things that would be existential to you, or you can come to the negotiating table.
Do you think that is something that the Iranians will actually consider at this point? I mean, we know that
who would consider
the Iranians coming back to the table after this. Do you?
Why wouldn't you?
Oh, you're being provocative.
No, but the thing is,
it's true. They're weaker than their opponent. Let's face it.
Yeah, they are.
And diplomacy's worked in the past. We got a deal in 2015 under Obama's administration. Yeah. How did we get to this point from there? Then, I mean, I've got a vague idea, but you explain.
No, you tell me your.
Well, 2015, we had a good deal, and we were able to stave off the nuclear ambitions of Iran for a bit.
Yeah.
Benjamin Netanyahu has never wanted a deal.
No. And
when Trump Mark I came in, that deal disappeared under pressure from Netanyahu.
Correct. I think that the thinking rationally, as we're trying to do, would not factor into if I was in a leadership position in Iran right now, because there are domestic repercussions. You have to respond. I mean, there has to be some sense in which...
They don't want to look weak to their nation.
Absolutely. So where is the exit ramp? I think that's what we're sort of discussing.
The off-ramp, as I read last night.
Exactly. I don't see one. First of all, this is hugely popular within Israeli political circles, okay? There's no one, I don't think, left or right, hard left or hard right or soft left or soft right that doesn't support this within Israel. So that's an impetus to keep going. The other thing is Israeli public opinion feels that they are in an existential conflict with Iran. I think people really feel that there is the biggest threat that they have to their survival comes from Iran or their proxies. Now, a number of their proxies, Iran's proxies, have gone. So basically, Israel has all the impetus and all the reason to keep going.
Yep.
I'm not sure Donald Trump wants that.
Okay. So this is the rationale behind it. Yeah. So, I mean, Rageh, you've been in and out of Iran, throughout your career. I think we talked earlier. I think you said it was 7 times. Last time around 5 years ago. I too have reported extensively on Iran, mainly since 2022. The idea that, for me, that the Islamic Republic will capitulate in any way at this point seems so extraordinarily unlikely.
I'd agree.
I mean, last night, Donald Trump, called for them to surrender. In the last hour, to the nation, they've said they will not.
Yeah.
They're feeling more insecure than they ever have done before, probably. Are we not almost expediting them wanting to push for the nuclear weapon?
I think so. I think there's a lot of opinion even within Western powers that believes that this is going to create a situation in which Iran, even if it creates a crude weapon, as Pakistan has done.
I mean, it's not immediate, let's face it, is it? It would, at the moment...
We don't know that. We don't know that. I mean, they're able to, enrich fissile material up to 60%. That's on the record. You could create a very crude bomb, as Pakistan did, I think, 10, 12 years ago, and just explode something that is... in a very crude way, a nuclear device, then that would make people think very, very, very differently. Could it be put in a ballistic missile? Could it be targeted? Could it have a guidance system that could target particular places? Maybe not. But in some ways, that's the problem with nuclear weapons, is the idea that you have the ability to just explode something that is nuclear makes political calculations very, very different. So I'd agree with your premise. My belief is that what Israel has done has been not for practical military purposes. It's just to create this absolute fear. We know everything you're doing. We can go into and out of your country. We can just shut off your radars. We can shut off we can kill anyone that we want. So that creates...
So this, in your eyes, is about Israel
creating a psychological fear
within this region. So you don't think? I mean, they're saying that it had intelligence that Iran was now building a nuclear bomb, but that's not what the UN's atomic agency, the IAEA. If I get that right.
If Iran wanted to create a crude nuclear option, well, why wouldn't Israel know about it
already? So you think they have much greater powers to know than the UN's atomic agency, then you think?
If you were to look on this in a totally neutral sort of way, the ability to insert agents to launch micro drones, which are armed, across the Iranian capital, which has a population of 11 million people, and kill the most senior 20 members of your intelligence and military personnel, must create a sense of doubt in your mind, surely?
Can you even predict what the US next move might be? I mean, I suppose that's the thing with Donald Trump. It is the predictable is the fact he is unpredictable.
Well, he loves making deals.
Yeah.
So
war diplomacy is not dealt with like real estate.
I don't think Israel wants a deal. I think the United States wants a deal. I think deep down Iran wants a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then comes the question, if the United States believes it can put proposals that are acceptable to Iran, can Israel be persuaded to stand down?
Mm-hmm.
The irony of all this, of course, is that it was Donald Trump that withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, and now he's having to sort of put another deal that is...
Which probably won't be that much better than Obama's if we get to this point now, if we get back to the negotiating table.
The worrying thing is, I mean, Iran has sort of said is withdrawing from the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. I think that's probably just sort of a negotiating tactic.
Mm-hmm.
But we shall see. I think there's actually more of... I'm more hopeful that there are the ingredients for some kind of negotiated settlement. But how do you ever prevent someone or some organization, once it has the technology to create a sort of fissile material enrichment? You know, these are really take decades to do, and just say, oh, you can never have a nuclear program. Well, they've got the technology. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a lot more for Iran to commit to saying that it will never have a military nuclear program. But once you have the ability to do it, you can always do it.
And that's the gravest threat. Rageh, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for running us through that. And for the latest, do head to itv.com/news. And remember to subscribe to What You Need to Know wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And you can watch full episodes on Spotify, YouTube and ITVX. Until next time, thanks for joining us.